Okay, everybody, welcome to Monday. This is your lesson in knowledge and listening and learning, and this is the chapter on fossils. Yes, indeed. It's lesson 7. I told you to be listening for this one. Well, what you're seeing here is actually a claw. See, that person's finger is pointing to a claw. This was found in New Mexico, and the discovery was recently reported in newspapers, and this picture comes from a newspaper from 2 days ago. The person is pointing. Now, look at that jumbled mess. It looks like some kind of jigsaw puzzle, doesn't it? Well, do you know what a paleontologist does? A paleontologist takes something like that, and they make it look like that. Yes. How do they get a bunch of chips and bones and claws and put it together, and this is what they come up with? This was a feathered animal that lived right about at the end of the dinosaur time, and it's a new discovery. They did not know that this animal was alive before. If you like this kind of thing, maybe you would want to be a paleontologist yourself. It's fascinating work for sure. Anyway, there are a couple of words. The word fossil, you know what that is. It's the preserved imprint of a body or a plant or animal that died many years ago. There's the word impression. An impression is the shape of something left on a surface because of pressure. So like if I took clay and I pushed my hand into the clay or Play-Doh, that would leave an impression of my hand there. A paleontologist is a scientist who studies living things from long ago by looking at fossils. And the word preserved, that's an adjective. Something that's well preserved is kept in good condition over a long period of time. All right, we're going to move on. We're going to see what this paleontologist has to say. Now, what kind of scientist is Jerry, by the way? Remember him? Jerry the geologist, okay? He studies things that are not living, that are not plants or animals. He studies rocks, right? There are other kinds of scientists called paleontologists who study things that were living in the earth many years ago. Say the word paleontologist with me again. Paleontologist, paleontologist. And I have a song for you to listen to at the end of this. So stick with me. And it's about paleontologists. All plants and animals are living things. Okay, today you will meet a friend of Jerry's who will tell you about plants and animals that lived long ago on the earth, many, many years ago, in fact. All right. So, here we go. My name is Pam, and I'm a paleontologist. Call her Pam the paleontologist. Jerry the geologist is a friend of mine. He called me this morning and asked me to come in and finish teaching you about the history of the earth. He's sorry he can't be here, but all this rock talk has him itching to see that some neat rocks himself, so he's off hiking in the mountains. A paleontologist is a scientist who studies paleontology, which is the study of life that existed on Earth in the distant past. Can you say paleontologist? Paleontologists study bones to learn about life on Earth long ago. This isn't just any bone. It's a dinosaur bone. I'll be teaching you about dinosaurs in the near future. First, we have to learn about fossils. Now, the next thing is sedimentary rock. Remember sedimentary rock? It's kind of an important rock. You don't find this thing in igneous or in metamorphic rocks. Jerry told me that you already know about basic geologic factors like heat, pressure, and time. You also know that sedimentary rocks such as sandstone and limestone are formed from layers of sediments that have been pressed together over time. He said you did some work on that and showed me. Yes. These layers of sediment offer many clues about the history of life on Earth. The history of life on Earth is my specialty as a paleontologist. See those impressions on that sandstone there? Ooh. Look at that. Fossilized shell. Paleontologists need to know a lot about rocks and geology in order to study living things because of something called a fossil. A fossil is the preserved body or imprint of a plant or animal that lived thousands, millions, or even billions of years ago. If something is preserved, it's kept in a good condition over a long period of time. Most fossils, like this fossil of a seashell, show you where the body of an animal or plant died and was buried under layer after layer of sediment. Over many, many years, with more and more sediment pressing down on it, this shell became part of the stone that formed as a result of geologic pressure. You're only seeing the impression, the shape of it, not the actual shell. Like, think of the shapes that you can make when you push an object into clay, like your hand, you know. The impression stays there, but your hand doesn't. The creature itself and its shell decayed and rotted away, but its shape stayed imprinted in the rock. Now, the next picture is that of a fossil hunter. I know somebody like this. He lives out in New Mexico, hunts rocks all the time. As you dig down into the earth, the soil and the rocks are divided into layers. These layers represent different geologic periods or times during which the crust and surface of the earth changed. For instance, if you find a layer of sandstone on dry land, then you know that there may have been an ocean or a river over land at some point in the distant past. We can estimate, that means take a good guess, how old certain fossils may be thanks to our understanding of geology and rock layers. Fossils are usually found in layers of sedimentary rocks, though they can be found in other rock formations as well. It looks like the paleontologist in this picture has found a good place for fossil hunting. He has to dig very carefully to make sure he keeps the fossils in good condition. You wouldn't want to just go banging around in the rock. You might split something. You might break a beautiful fossil. Maybe it was a whole leg bone, and if you hit it too hard, you have two leg bones. Every fossil is a part of the Earth's fossil record. The fossil record includes everything we've learned about the history of life from studying fossils. The fossil record is what paleontologists study in order to figure out what life on Earth was like many years ago. Paleontologists can determine the animals and plants imprinted in the fossils lived on the rock layers in which they were found. They use information from all fossils to create a timeline of life on Earth. Today I would like to show you several different fossils from several different time periods during the history of the Earth. And here's the first one. It's called a trilobite. Tri means three, and lobe. It has three lobes. I don't know if you can see them. Here's one. Here's the second lobe. Here's the third lobe. This is the fossil of a trilobite, an animal that lived about 550 million years ago. Trilobites may look like insects, but they're more closely related to lobsters and crabs. Trilobites came in many varieties, from a half inch up to 28 inches in length. 28 inches is more than 2 feet. They had antennas, lots of legs, and a hard outer shell called an exoskeleton. That exoskeleton is important because it meant the dead trilobites were easily fossilized when they became buried in the sand. Now, remember, behind my desk, behind my seat, I have that exoskeleton of a starfish. That's kind of like the same thing that we're talking about with the exoskeleton of a trilobite. It's the hard outer shell, but the starfish was no longer inside, right? Like, so. Here's another interesting little fellow. Ooh, look at that. This is Cookonia. The fossil record estimates that the first plants appeared on land about the same time. Back then, there was no soil on the land because soil contains dead, decayed plants. Now think about this, boys and girls. We were a rock planet, and before you could get any dirt, dirt doesn't just appear. Dirt is a result, soil is a result of things that die and decay. So there had to be some plants on that rocky planet that were able to live in some of the cracks in the rock, and they died and they rotted and they made a little bit of soil, and over millions and millions of years there was more and more soil available, so more plants were able to grow. Even now, if you dig down, no matter where you dig, if you dig down in the Earth's crust, you're going to hit rock, right? So anyway, since these were the first plants on land, no plants had yet died in order to create soil. The first plants did not have the same characteristics as plants today. These plants were less than half an inch tall. They had no roots, they had no leaves, they had no flowers, they had no seeds, but they were plants nonetheless. I know it looks like they have flowers, but those aren't flowers, and they don't have leaves. Very neat, huh? Well, pretty obvious what these guys are. These are fish fossils. Soon came the age of fish. So first we had trilobites. Millions of years later came plants. Millions of years later we had fish. Many different kinds of fish ruled the waters. Look at this guy. This is a tetrapod. Also during this time, plant and animal life on Earth began to spread rapidly, especially on land. The first soils developed on land, allowing new types of plants with leaves, stems, and roots to grow. With new plants came new land creatures ready to eat those plants. Tetrapods, the first amphibians, made their way onto the beaches. An amphibian, remember, is an animal like a frog that lives part of its life in water and part on land. Paleontologists have found many tetrapods fossils. An artist drew this picture using a tetrapod fossil, which shows what a real tetrapod probably looked like. Do you think any of this tetrapod's body parts look like they belong on a fish? Yeah, I don't know. Does it have gills? That's kind of strange. Its mouth looks like a fish. That pointy mouth. Yeah, you probably have seen this plant before. This is fern. This is a fossil of fern. You might have some fern growing outside your house. It's been on this planet for 350 million years. Lush forests after a while, after the tetrapod there. Lush forests full of green trees and plants, such as ferns, began to grow. No grass yet, but they did have fern. Look at this fellow. The first reptiles showed up. As forests increased, so too did the variety and sizes of animals. The first giant reptiles appeared. Of course, the one in this picture, called a Dimetrodon, is just a model that someone made, but they based this model on fossilized Dimetrodon bones found in the earth. Paleontologists call the body part sticking up on its back a sail, because it looks like the sail on a boat. Dimetrodon was not a dinosaur, but it certainly looked like one, and dinosaurs were soon to follow. We will learn more about dinosaurs next time. This is as far as the fossil record will take us today. All right. So, what is a fossil? A fossil is the preserved body or imprint of a plant or animal that lived long, long ago, right? And what was that word that I was talking about that meant it's kept in good condition? Well, in the read aloud, you heard me say a fossil is the preserved body or imprint of a plant or animal that lived thousands, millions, or billions of years ago. Say the word preserved with me, everybody. Preserved. That's right. If something is preserved, it is kept in a good condition over a long period of time. Like, my mother preserved the pictures by putting them in a photo album. Why is it something important? Why is it important that some things be preserved? You think about that. Well, I think that beautiful trees should be preserved because when people look at them, they feel good. What's something that you think should be preserved and why? And what's that word we're talking about? Preserved. That's right. All right, I'm going to kind of end this right here, and I want you to click on the next YouTube video. It is a video of a group called They Must Be Giants singing a song that every first grader should know. I'm a paleontologist. Okay? It's a song you'll probably be humming for the next couple of days. So you like singing in the shower, but it's much newer than singing in the shower, trust me. All right, see you next time.